welcome you guys to the Refining Fire podcast. I'm so thankful to have you guys around the table. So I've got Mark Mendenhall, Mark Shockey. I know I keep doubling up on Jeremy's last week, Mark's this week, and Chris Owens. So I'm so thankful for you guys to be here. And so I asked this question: does anybody know what topic we're going to talk about?
No.
I have no idea.
That's good because this is unfiltered. This is, unscripted. And so in there is a crucible. In there is the topic that we are going to discuss. There's multiple topics. Who would like to pull the topic out of the crucible?
Sure, I'll go for it.
Go for
Go
it.
ahead.
What is the purpose of the church?
Wow, that's kind of funny considering Sunday's or today's sermon. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. So, what is the purpose of the church?
Well, I'll spit something out there and see what anybody else thinks about it. I think it is to give us all a community of support. I mean, okay, the night before Christ was crucified, he went out to pray, and I forget who. Somebody's gonna have to tell me who he drug along with him or tried to. There was Peter was one of them.
And then the Sons of Thunder, James and John.
Yeah, James and John, and was trying to get them to come to him to pray with him and whatnot, and they kept falling asleep. The church is kind of to be the support and help us learn.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get a little bit deeper into it than that.
Yeah, no, I would agree though. That's most of, reading through, there's definitely some times that the names and the thous and these and whatnot, and I don't sometimes know, even after reading it 3 times, what I just read. So that's where I feel like the church helps a lot with that. With they've actually gone through the schooling to decipher some of the meaning.
Yeah, I echo all of that. Because you think about it. So let's first talk about what I want to talk about. What the church isn't. And I know a lot of people will think that we're, out to get people's money, or the church is out to get people's money. It's nothing but a bunch of hypocrites. It's, it's just for status. It's for elevation. It's to
Makes you feel better about
makes
what
you.
you're saying and doing.
It's a look at me and look at who I am and look at who I'm around kind of thing. And my name's on the wall. I've built this church or whatever. And the thing is it's none of those things. It's
not supposed to be.
Well, it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, believe me, I have been in churches where, and maybe it was to the fault of myself, but I just had the feeling that that's kind of what it was all about.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time, that's one of the things that kind of held me back, was the particular church that we'd been involved with, just didn't strike a note with me as being authentic.
Okay.
Now, obviously they're not all that way, and obviously even that church wasn't entirely that way, but that was part of my perception of it.
Because I think all too often we take the world and we drag it into church with us, and so if we're not careful, we'll turn the church exactly into the world, and it's just another door you walk through, another door you darken throughout the week. So, but and again, I'll go, like I said, where it's not, and then I'll think about the fact that I always go where Acts, where they started talking about growing the church, that they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. That's Acts 2:42. And 43, everyone was filled with awe. Many wonders and signs were being performed through the apostles. So, I mean, here they talked about they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, because back then, if I understand correctly, they were being persecuted, so the church was more of a you know, I guess we could relate it to like the Underground Railroad, where it was a bunch of people being a part of a movement, helping people that were in need whenever the trouble came up.
Well, one of the headings in my Bible in Acts chapter 2, just prior to verse 42, it says the believers form a community. And I mean that's really kind of what at its roots, I think that's really kind of what the church is. It's a community of believers who have came together, under the same guiding light, so to speak. Um, and it is a community. It is a family. We've seen that play out so many times at Life Point Church, and I'm sure in most other churches around the country is the same way. But I have a I have a soft spot in my heart for Life Point Church, um, and the way they have um, discipled the members there, the way they have been accepting of people, no matter who they are, what they look like, what kind of clothes they wear, how much money they make, what their job is. It just has never seemed to matter, and that is, to me, that is awesome. That's what the community of the church is all about.
Yeah.
Well, in talking about things done right, the get out of hell free card. Whenever I was younger, the church I would attend every now and then, that was, yeah, you say this prayer, you get dunked in this water, and you're good. That's all
Yep.
you need. And then shortly after we started coming here, they talked about communion and how you should not take it unless you're in the right frame of mind and you've gotten right with the Lord and everything. And that's something that we weren't taught down there. It was you took it because you just take it.
Yeah.
That's part of your daily routine when you go to church.
It was
You
a
do
real
you check that box.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was a ritualistic
Yep.
um, activity uh, that that it's easy to fall into that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Mark preached a couple of weeks ago about authentic worship, and when I walked out of there that day, I told him, I said, man, I said that hit home because um, I can get I can get tied up in just going through the motions if I'm not careful.
Yep. Yeah. I completely agree with that. Uh, because like when I grew up, I agree. The same thing was it was the get out of hell free card, and you go just to check a box, and whenever I my grandmother told me that, well, not my grandmother, she was like my grandmother told me, she goes, as long as you have a good heart and you do what you think is good, that's all that God requires. And so I was like, okay, well, I see these people being hypocritical, and I just don't need to be around those people, and I can just do things my own way. And that's one good thing about like we talk about Life Point Church, because I know we're all members of Life Point Church, is the fact that, you know, that's not what our church is at all. That's not what the church is for. We come in and we're getting discipled and we're getting edified and we're getting taught that it's a relationship and it's not just but when you're out there, when you're on the outside looking in, you can say, well, there's just, like I said before, all the money grabbing and things like that. So,
And it takes money to operate a church. I mean, we have to have those tithes and offerings
yep,
in order to be able to support the church and the things that it's doing and the programs and those sort of things. Um, but just like in the early church and back in Acts, everybody contributed. They brought in what they had
yep.
and they shared it with those who needed it. And so,
And they sold their property. It was one of the things that I like. Yeah, it says they sold their possessions and property and distributed the proceeds to all as any had need. And so, all we're really honestly, when we take up tithes and offerings, number one, it's a worship, it's a way that we can say, okay, everything, everything in my life is yours. And so we give back a little bit of what God gives us, but it's also to help with, like you said, the faculties of the church, because yes, we have to pay, we do pay for a pastor, and we pay for his guiding and leading, and and they did that back then too, because it said that,
We kind of like to have the heat on and the air
yeah,
conditioner
yeah,
working in the
yep,
summer.
true. We don't want some dingy building. We want it to kind of look a little nice. Um, there are just things that about it. So, but it's not about that. The church isn't about that. And in fact, if we meet out in the driveway, or the road. And I know people that go meet, in a wooded area or wherever. The church really isn't a building.
Right.
The church is us. And so when you take away the building, you take away all that stuff. The church is really us. And man, I enjoy being able to come on Sunday and being around my brothers and sisters, because that's what it's about. Because life beats me up so bad between Monday through Saturday. It's nice to get a breather. It's like whenever two boxers are in the ring and they hit the bell and they go back to their corner and they're around their guys. Hey, you can do it. You can do it. And they wipe the blood off their face, and they wash out their mouth, and they spit in the cup, and they say, okay, get it back out there. That's it. And then that bell is Monday through Saturday. Right?
Yeah.
A lot more rounds in life.
Yeah, there's a lot more rounds. Well, that's because the enemy, sometimes you hit him a couple times, he just doesn't know when to stay down. That's all right. One day,
Yeah, he'll
one,
get his day.
that one day Jesus will take the middle of that ring, and it'll be game over. So,
Well, yeah. So you keep talking, you say tithes and offerings to help support the church. Something I've come to realize here lately. It took me many a moons to get here, but that money that's in my pocket and in my bank account, that ain't mine. I'm somewhere in there. It says that you are to steward what is given to you,
yep.
and if giving some of it back to the church to help out wherever it needs to go, that's fine by me. It wasn't mine to begin with. And you see many times in there, you're talking about selling property. I don't know. It's in here somewhere.
Yep. Sold their possessions and property. Yep.
There was a couple that sold a field, and the man goes to give the offering. I'm sure we all know what I'm talking
Yep.
about.
Well, we know what we're talking about.
And they said, well, is this everything? Oh yeah, no, that's everything.
Ananias and Sapphira.
But he was struck dead, and then she come in and says, oh yeah, that was everything. Well, if God wants everything, He will get it. Don't. So you can't lie about it, at least not to Him. But yeah, we're here to steward it. So I guess what I'm getting at is that ain't none of it ours to begin with.
Right. Right, because God created it all. God created everything. Even if we make something and sell it, all the things that we put together, he it was his to begin with. He created it.
I think the question was stated, what was the purpose? Yeah, what was the purpose of the church? But in a nutshell, what we have to say is that it's all done for the glory of God. Everything we do is to um, spread the word about what Jesus did, and and bring glory to God with the things that we do, and that that's something I have to try to keep in the back of my mind, especially going through the week, because we all get. I'm retired now, and it's a little easier for me now. But back the the 50 years that I spent working, um, it there was a lot of times it was hard, to keep that kind of thought in the back of my mind. I mean, I was pretty driven, with any of the jobs I ever had to try to do well, and so I would let my I'd let my mind be occupied by those type of things, worldly things,
Yep.
rather than the things of God. And so I think the ultimate purpose of the church is to bring glory to God.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that.
But talking about, the giftings and whatnot, um, with the church, I feel like that's one thing that I've learned too is more of what the fruit of the Spirit is. And with that comes, the gifting of the Spirit. And I've always just said that I'm a pretty happy person. I don't have anything to be sad about. Um, but I've come to realize that that is just one of my giftings. I'm joyful. I
Yeah.
don't, I'm good at spreading that joy usually.
Yep.
Now there are days, there's always days, but generally speaking, I can identify that, break it down, do better, and make it a conscious effort. And yeah, then that's where the conversations happen in the least expected of places, just because how are you okay right now? Well, because this isn't it. I think Mark said it forever ago. He said it a couple times that for the believer, this is the closest to hell you'll ever get. For the non-believer, closest to heaven you'll ever get. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
yeah,
Yeah, I love
I
that.
like
yeah,
that.
I love that.
that'll always be one of my favorite things he said.
Another thing that I really like about the church too, about when you get around a true church. I mean, like you said, you can walk into some churches and they're not doing it right, and not to say there aren't people in there that don't believe in or that believe in Jesus, because there are,
Sure.
but there's just some people that are very forward and they're not walking out what God says to walk out. But when you walk into that church, especially like whenever we walk into Life Point, one of the things that I really like about it is that it reminds me, like you said, a little closer. It's the most heaven that anybody's going to be. It gives us a fraction. It gives us a taste. It reminds us when we walk in there that what we just experienced Monday through Saturday isn't all there is. And I told my wife we came back from going to Elevation Worship couple maybe last week. I don't remember. Came back from that, and I told my wife, I said, "Man, that's just a fraction. It's just a very small
Yeah.
fraction." And when we had worship Sunday night, again, a very small fraction. And that to me, being able to go in there and have a taste, just a taste of what heaven's going to be like, be able to worship Jesus forever, be able to listen to his word and to hear his truth and to be in his presence and to be around his bride, the big C church, as Mark would put it. It's just I love it. And if if you are a believer and you say that you're a believer and you don't like being around God's people, there is a breakdown.
Yeah, there's something wrong there somewhere. Yeah.
Because to me, the best man, if I could bring all y'all to church or to work with me each and every day, it'd be all right. If I worked around nothing but believers all day, I don't know. I don't think there'd be much of a problem. But who knows? I've never had that opportunity. But to me, but that's where I get it at is that, my brothers and sisters, I love being around my brothers and sisters. I love the encouragement. I love the fact that I go back to that boxing reference. They say you're doing okay. Just do this and get out there and try again till that bell rings.
One of the other absolutely incredible things about the church that my wife and I have experienced was when she was diagnosed with metastatic melanoma. She had cancer, had spread all through her body, um, 6 brain tumors. It was all
Mm.
through her lungs, her liver, her abdomen was just absolutely full of cancer, and um, we got her uh, to the KU Cancer Center, and we were very fortunate. We got a hold of an oncologist there who is a Christian man. And anyway, a long story short, she was given a few days, maybe a few weeks to live,
Oh wow.
and that was back. Let's see, that was back in 2021, the spring of 21. And she's been completely cancer free now for 2 years.
That's awesome.
And so, number one, what we saw happen was we saw an incredible miracle of healing that God performed in her. And I've not been around anything like that, hadn't been around anything like that before to experience it. But even her oncologist, when we go down there for checkups, he still refers to her as the miracle woman, because he tells us that what happened to her was a modern day miracle. It just, they don't see that happen.
Yeah.
Well, so that was one big thing that we took away from it. But getting back to the church thing, that one of the things that happened through that whole experience was to see how the church reacted and reached out to us, and people really stepping up and taking care of us, providing meals for us. I know there was literally hundreds of people praying um, for her and her situation, coming over by the house and just stopping by and having a quick prayer, and just to let us know that they cared. Just the support and the uplift that we received from the church during a time when we were doing good just to get up in the morning and put one foot in front of the other. It's so difficult when you go through something, life changing like that. But the church was there for us, and it was just an incredible blessing that we received from the church through that experience.
And I'm witnessing that now with Casey coming out of open heart surgery,
Right.
and you guys blessed us with a meal, and very appreciative, and just people stepping up and asking my wife how she is, and just the prayers, and I mean, I look back on this side and I go, how did anybody ever survive without? How does people survive out there without the church?
Yeah.
I know I was 16 years old and I thought I didn't need it. Of course, I was at a church. I like I said, I didn't believe that they were really following Jesus that well. But when you're in a church that actually does, man, how can you? It's a lifeline.
Yeah.
It's something that is just a part of you, and I love it. I love it. And so I go back to that whole fact that if somebody's a believer and they say that they can be the Lone Ranger Christian, there is something wrong with your logic, because number one, we can't walk this out alone. We need Jesus first and foremost, but we need each other second. And if you can't love its bride, I told somebody they're not much into Christian concerts, and I thought, do you understand what we're going to be doing for eternity? I mean, I'm sure that we're going to be able to worship him in other ways, but you understand we're going to be doing that for probably 85 to 90% of it. If you might want to get comfortable doing it. So, man, you've been very quiet over there.
I was just thinking about the best I could do is a really bad Elvis impersonation.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, because I know that you're pretty new to the faith, and kind of how has your mind been changed as far as the church?
Well, I think more than anything, it's just kind of, I've always done everything by myself without help. So whenever I've texted you before, like we had a situation where I just wanted to go and break some knees, and having somebody to reach out and say, hey, I know wanting to physically hurt someone over what they did to me and my family is not okay. What should I do about this? Like, what does Scripture say we're supposed to do? Because I know this isn't right.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I kind of feel bad for admitting wanting to break somebody's knees
No,
right
it's
now.
no, it's all right.
Who
It's
who was it? Paul? Was it? I think Paul maybe that cut the ear off whenever they came to
no,
Peter.
that was
Peter.
Peter.
Peter, yeah. So it's
Yeah,
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
it's
it's
human
engraved in
nature,
us,
you know.
unfortunately.
It is human
there's
nature.
a little bit of passion there.
But seeing it and knowing like, hey, I need to ask for help or get something on this. That's what's important.
well, and I was raised in such a way where if somebody wronged you or the family,
You handled it.
you handled it.
Yeah.
And that always, for some reason, fell onto me because I was only the ever one that did that, I guess. I don't know. But having somebody to reach out to and say, hey, what am I supposed to do in this situation? Because, like, I know I'm not supposed to. You know, I got to have some guidance. I got to have some help on this one. It just that now being able to look at like I say, my bank account and say, you know what? Yeah, it's in your bank account. That's not yours. It's okay to let it go to somewhere, even if you don't know where it's going. It's going to help somebody because if it sits in the bank and draws moths, it ain't doing nobody any good.
Yeah.
Um, just stuff like that. That I guess really the biggest thing is the community and the people to be able to go to other brothers and say, hey, I don't know what to do here. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
You don't have
Oh,
to.
absolutely
You
it
don't have
is.
to
You
be
know,
able to just figure it out.
and I think that's where, you know, our D groups at church, our connection groups, where we can kind of connect with each other on a more personal level, um, get to know one another a little closer. That helps a lot, to have somebody that, you know, when something like that happens to you in your life and you think, man, instead of thinking, I don't know who to turn to for the answers,
Yeah.
then if you have a brother or sister in Christ that you know personally, then you can turn to them for those things. And if they don't know the answer, most of the time they can find somebody that does, or help you figure it out. And that it gets back to that community of believers, um, that which is the church.
Yes. Yes. Because it's not about the building. Because we could go and we could meet in here for all it cares. You know, heard people meeting in pizza places and parking lots and driveways and all buildings and barns or whatever. It doesn't matter where they meet because most of the time these guys probably didn't. I mean, whenever it got to the point where they were really being persecuted, they probably didn't meet all together. It was probably just a little here, like the discipleship groups or the groups like that. But the biggest part about it was, hey, we're all here for each other. We are all a part of this. We're all in this together. And uh, and I think that's really kind of why maybe even in Western civilization, why maybe the word church leaves a bad taste in somebody's mouth because we don't have the persecution, we don't have the what these guys went through in the first century, and so we've turned it into a country club. We've turned it into a, my checkbook's bigger than your checkbook, and my plaque's on the wall and your plaque's not on the wall, and I like the carpet and I have power over the carpet, and people don't. And compared to the fact that, hey, we're all in this together. Everything's open handed, and if brother shows up and they need something, you give it to them. It makes me think of Kevin whenever he told me, or at his mom's funeral. Yeah, he was talking about that his parents, somebody had asked to borrow their car to go move to Florida, with the premise that when they got to Florida, they would get the car back to Kevin's parents. And so their parents said, "Yeah, sure," and handed them the car keys. They went down there. A month went by, 2 months went by. Finally, they get a phone call from these people, and they say, "Hey, look, we're not giving the car back. We're not bringing it back. We're going to keep it." And so that his parents signed the title over and dropped it in the mail. Now, every part of my flesh says that's not right. You go get your car back. But that's being open handed. Those guys said, okay, well, apparently they need it better than us, and that's how we should be, and we should be open handed. If somebody needs something and we have the ability to give it to them, we should give it, and we should. What I know there's a term they that held everything in common. That's the term that they talk about in the Bible. It may not be a CSB version comment, but they held everything in common. So whenever somebody was in need, they shared, and that's how we do. And I see that, and it's still getting walked out today. People share their time. They stop by and they pray. And I'm glad you guys are doing well. We've been thinking about you and bringing meals. Again, I really believe that that's the true purpose of the church is just to model Jesus in each other's lives, and to be a beacon and not be something that everybody's like, I don't need to be a part of that. So
And to the outside world. I, they touched this morning on this food drive that we're starting, for the pantry, and um, because of the government shutdown and all the factors that go along with that, we're gonna have trouble getting food to keep the pantry stocked up, um, and so there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to see an outpouring of people bringing food in there, and donating it. Um, and if my wife and I, again, being retirees, it gives us an opportunity that a lot of people don't have, and that is to serve at the food pantry monthly when they have the pantries. Um, and are there people that come through there that could afford to buy their own food? Well, yeah, there's a small percentage of those that are just out to take advantage of it. But for the biggest majority of those folks, it's a very important thing. They need that food to get by, and so the fact that we as the church can provide those kind of opportunities. And the vast majority of those folks come through there are not members of our own church. Very, very few of them are. Um, but in doing that, it's such an important outreach ministry, because we pray for every person that comes through there before they leave that building.
yeah,
And so that's making it has to be making a big impact. Besides supplying a physical need, we're also pointing them to Jesus.
oh yeah, oh yeah, and who knows? Maybe during this government shutdown, and I know that this is going to air in the summer, and you're going to be like, "What government shutdown?" And but maybe during this time, maybe the church will actually stand up and be the church. They didn't have SNAP benefits back in this
Right.
time. It was a church that took care of the widows. It was a church that took care of those that were less fortunate. These guys took care of them,
Yeah.
because we looked after the ones that nobody would help and go after. So maybe this be our opportunity to stand up as men of God and say we're going to act like first century church, and we're
Yeah.
going to share what we got and share and have things in common, and take care of maybe people that don't believe. And who knows, maybe if we actually look like the church and actually show what the church has to offer, and the true purpose of the church, that maybe we'll get some people to understand that maybe we're just not a bunch of hypocrites that are, we're giving our money to go towards jet planes and things like that. Even though I think this is kind of funny. Well, like Creflo Dollar he has the. Do you ever hear about that? Creflo Dollar had an airplane. He's a TV evangelist, has an airplane. But
No
nobody
idea.
mentions the fact that Samaritan's Purse, Franklin, what's his
Graham,
yeah
Franklin Graham.
yeah Franklin Graham has planes too. But the difference is he uses his planes to go take people food to the non wealthy nations, and maybe somebody else just uses it to fly around the U.S. But,
I read just picked a random passage today to read, and it was Luke 10, and didn't think it was really going to tie into this, but on that note, it's when Jesus sends out the 72 to go do things in his name. Then it has the parable of the Good Samaritan.
yeah,
Well, the parable of the Good Samaritan is that this man's beat half to death. He got robbed, and then people keep walking by him and they don't want anything to do with him. They go on the other side of the road, and then finally, what are they called? A Samaritan, who they were the lowest of the low, stopped, helped that person.
Which was a Jewish man, and they
Yep.
weren't supposed to
Yeah,
they weren't supposed to talk.
Yeah,
Samaritans and the Jews did not
took him,
get along.
to an inn, got him taken care of and everything. And he says that is how you're supposed to love your neighbor, and your neighbor's anybody.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing. Even, church, even when you're not in church, you should still have that mindset out on the street. If there's somebody that needs help, talking about the food pantry and whatnot, you help them.
Yep.
Any way that you can. If you can't help them, then you're not the person that's supposed to help them. But if you can, you should help.
Yeah. And again, another good purpose of the church is the fact that we're there to get equipped, so then we can go out and help everybody else. We're in there to be equipped and, like I said, encourage each other, so we can go out and we can go out and fight Monday through Saturday for people that need to come and need Jesus in their lives.
What is that? You can't. If your cup's empty, you can't fill their cup.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because you can't pour out of an empty cup.
That's what it is, yeah.
Can't pour out of an empty cup. Well, guys, I am so thankful for you guys to come and sit at this table. And man, I feel like that was a good study, talking about the purpose of the church. And I don't know. I'm encouraged. We had another good topic and another good discussion. And I'm so, again, thankful for you guys. And so I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And again, thanks, guys.